week's video, I'm going to show you how to make a 3-hole V pattern. On the first pattern row, I will make 2 holes, and on the following pattern row, I will make 1 hole that will also close both of the prior holes. This is a really pretty, delicate pattern that can be used as an all-over hole pattern or as part of a larger lace pattern. Learning how to open and close holes is the first step in making lace sprung. I will be opening and closing my holes on shift rows, and those are what I will be referring to as the pattern rows, although holes can be opened and closed on basic rows as well. So I'd like to give you a quick overview of the terminology I will use in this pattern. Sprung is broken down into interlinkings of picking and dropping threads. The basic sprung maneuver is to pick 1 back thread and drop 1 front thread. To shorten that, I would say a 1-1 interlinking. To start a shift row, you begin by picking up 2 back threads and dropping 1 front thread. I would call this a 2-1 interlinking. And the opposite of that maneuver would be a 1-2 interlinking, picking 1 back thread and dropping 2 front threads. A pattern of holes will be made up of 1-1, 2-1, 1-2, and 2-2 interlinkings. A 2-2 interlinking is picking 2 threads and dropping 2 threads. The pattern of picking and dropping for the first pattern row is this. Start with a 2-1 interlinking, then perform 2 1-1 interlinkings, and then a 1-2 interlinking. This is going to be the first half of your first hole. Next, do a 2-2 interlinking as both the second half of the first hole and the first half of the second hole. Then a 2-1 interlinking as the second half of the second hole. Finish the row the same way you started, performing 2 1-1 interlinkings and finally a 1-2 interlinking. The easiest way to think about this is that each hole is opened by dropping 2 threads, which is performed with the 1-2 interlinking, and then closed by picking 2 threads, which is the 2-1 interlinking. If you are working multiple holes side by side in a row, then you will close the prior hole and open the next hole in the same maneuver, the 2-2 interlinking. The other way to think of this, and this is how I thought of it when I was first learning, is that every time you make a hole, you're finishing your row. So you're doing a 1-2 interlinking like you would do at the end of a row. Then you start your row over again on the other side of the hole by doing a 2-1 interlinking, just like you would do when you start your row. After your first pattern row, do a basic row of all 1-1 interlinkings. Your holes will stay open through this row. On the second pattern row, I will close the bottoms of each of the holes and open a new hole at the same time. It can be a little tricky to know when to start the hole on this row. You will need to perform the 1-2 interlinking to begin your hole when you have 1 front thread left before the first hole from the prior pattern row. By dropping the front threads on either side of that hole, you will close it up. Then do a 2-1 interlinking. Because the 2 back threads you are picking up are on either side of the second hole, this will close that hole up. Follow up the second pattern row with a basic and then shift row to finish the pattern, as the hole will not close until you do a shift row. You don't have to do anything special to close that hole, just performing the shift row will close it automatically. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.